Hello, Lowell. Today is Saturday, May 20th, 2023. I'm Mary Aline from Lowell's First Look, and I'm here to give you a rundown of the past week's news. Our sponsor today is Riverside Dentistry, which many of you might know as Reagan Family Dentistry. Dr. Jim Reagan, he's still at the dental clinic, but he is getting ready to retire, so he sold the practice to Dr. Min Han, who is now the primary dentist there. And I did get a chance to meet with Dr. Han last year and was super impressed. He gave me his resume, and it included just pages of training that he has done in order to keep his education updated, to learn new skills. Just really passionate about being in the community and really passionate about staying on top of the latest dental practices. So if you are looking for a dentist, check out Riverside Dentistry. Again, that's formerly known as Reagan Family Dentistry. You can give them a call at 616-897-7179 to schedule an appointment. They do cleanings, implants, I think they do whitening. They have a full range of services there, so check them out. For the news this week, we kicked off the week by announcing that the Lowell Riddler will return this summer. We had gotten many emails from people wondering, is the Riddler coming back? And we actually did not know until about a week ago. The Riddler is someone who is active and busy in the community, has a job. They decided to start the Lowell Riddler during the pandemic. It just seemed like a really good way to get people out and, something fun to do during a not so fun time. But now life is back to normal, and they weren't sure if they were going to have time to do it. But we finally got word the Lowell Riddler is returning this summer. It'll be kind of a limited engagement rather than weekly clues. There'll still be weekly clues, but there's going to be one riddle a month. So there'll be a riddle for June, a riddle for July, a riddle for August, and then there will be 3 clues for each. And the first clue will be super tough, which no one will probably understand. The second one should be a little bit easier, and then the third one we're told will be a giveaway. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you've never heard of the Lowell Riddler, go to lowellsfirstlook.com, search for the Lowell Riddler, and you can see previous clues. You can find an article explaining exactly what it is, but it's basically there'll be a medallion hidden somewhere in the city or in the township in an area that's linked by a sidewalk or a trail, and the clues will lead you to the medallion. For this round of riddles, if you find the medallion, then you win a $50 Lowell Bucks gift certificate. So that is something to look forward to this summer. Also, we received word that the historic Hale House will be sold. If you might not know what the Hale House is, but I am sure that you have seen it. It is that big old house on Hudson Street, right across from the fairgrounds. It is where Gilda's Club and Senior Neighbors have met for years. And unfortunately, I've been in there. It's a very cool historic home. It's not super conducive to meetings because it is a house, or originally it was a house, so it's pretty chopped up. So they were using one big room for a dining area and an activity room, and then the smaller, like what would have been like the dining room, was like a meeting room for Gilda's, and the library was a meeting room for Gilda's, and the kids went upstairs. And so there were space constraints. So they are moving to the UCC, which is the First Congregational Church on Lincoln Lake Avenue. And we got a press release saying that the house where they had been meeting, that is going to be put up for sale. It's actually owned by Senior Neighbors, even though it was shared with Gilda's Club. So if you are interested in owning a piece of Lowell history, that piece of Lowell history will be up for sale pretty soon. I also got a chance to meet with a new band called Vernon Potts. And you might not know you might not be familiar with that band name, but if you at all follow local Lowell music, you probably know the name Ryan Clark. And Ryan Clark is the person behind Vernon Potts. So for the last few years, Ryan has done something called the Ryan Experience, which is basically where he was just collaborating with all sorts of people. Come do a show with me, come do a song with me, let's collaborate on this. But it was all very short term. And so he said, I'm looking to do something more complex, as far as complex songs. I really want to work with the same people for a while. So he is teaming back up with two people that were in his high school band, the Preservers, Jeremy Cargill and Patrick Cargill. And so they are in the band. And then there's Joe Schimmelman, who is playing saxophone and keyboard. And Joe also plays in the band Short Panic, and he's part of a new black metal group called Heavyweight Slugfest. And then Dan Christman rounds out the band. He's playing bass, and he's like brand new. Like this is his first band that he's been in. And so I met with the band. Very cool guys. I asked them, where'd the name come from? Vernon Potts, what does that mean? And Ryan told me that apparently he was watching, it's a 1973 like slasher flick, Horror High. Is that what it was called? Yes, Horror High. And there's a character in there called Vernon Potts. And he was watching this movie and thought, that name sounds like it should be a band. And now it is a band. So go check out this article on Lowell's First Look. It's got a rundown of they've got about 10 shows that they have scheduled right now to play this summer all around West Michigan. Monday night, City Council met and they passed the budget. So they got they had a presentation from Lowell Light and Power, because when they passed their budget, that includes the Lowell Light and Power budget. Lowell Light and Power, they said that their biggest challenge right now is that the cost to purchase power is kind of going through the roof. They said it has gone up 45% since fiscal year 2021. Because even though Lowell Light and Power provides us our electricity, they actually do not generate the power here in Lowell. They are part owners in a couple of different coal facilities, and they have purchase power agreements with some alternative energy providers such as solar and wind. And part of the problem is that the coal plants are starting to shut down. And Charlie West, who is the general manager of Lowell Light and Power, he said, we're totally in support of that. We're all for decarbonizing our power supply. But the problem is that the coal plants are going offline. And then the alternative energy, like the solar plants, they are not coming online as quickly as possible, or as quickly as expected. So as a result, their purchase power prices are going up. But regardless of that, they look like they're having, pretty good revenues. They expect to receive $10.6 million in sales revenue during the upcoming year. That's an 8.2% increase from last year. They said that's largely attributable to load growth, increased power supply costs, and rate changes. Load growth is, they said, like the marijuana businesses are, they need more energy. So as people need more electricity and as more, subdivisions come online, that's helping to push up their revenue. At the end of the day, after they have paid for their purchase power and employees and everything else, they expect to have about $500,000 left over as their net income for the upcoming year. That is a 27% increase from the previous year. And that money, Lowell Light and Power is a nonprofit. So that money then just gets funneled back into the utilities operations. They do capital campaigns or capital improvements in order to improve their reliability and hopefully keep rates affordable for customers. So apparently, according to West, big projects coming up is they want to run another line under the Grand River over by the Jackson or the Division Street Bridge. They're also going to put up new power lines up, I think it's Jackson, and then across North Street. So those are some big projects they have going. As for the city budget, they expect to have general fund revenues of $4.07 million. And right now they have planned to spend $4.01 million. So that's about pretty close to, even as far as their incoming money and their outgoing money. Their major expenditures for the upcoming year include a $3.5 million infrastructure project on Monroe Street. That's going to totally reconstruct the street, replace water and sewer lines. That is being paid with a USDA financing program. They're getting bonds through the USDA for that. Other major expenditures include $400,000 to repave Grindle Street, $215,000 to repave the cross streets between Monroe and Washington, $195,000 for work on Shepherd Drive, $192,000 for Ottawa Street. The budget also maintains the current millage rate of 15.7 mils. If you go to lowellsfirstlook.com, look for the City Council recap. It's entitled City Council Recap Annual Budget Passed. If you look for that and scroll down, we have a link to the entire budget that you can go if you want to read all the nitty gritty as far as where the city gets their money and how they spend it. Other news from that meeting includes the compensation committee report. So there's a local officers compensation committee, which is made up of 5 local residents. They are responsible for setting the stipend that council members get for meetings. And Roger Lowell, who is the chair of that committee, he presented a report at the Monday meeting. He said that it has been about 10 years, I think actually from 2008 is the last time that the compensation committee submitted a recommendation to Lowell City Council. So they are recommending a significant increase in the amount that council members receive as a stipend. But he said that in looking at other municipalities, this is kind of bringing it in line with what other folks are getting. So currently, council members receive $40 per meeting, up to 35 meetings, so they can get a maximum annual compensation of $1,400. The mayor gets $47 per meeting, up to 35 meetings, for a maximum annual compensation of $1,645. So that's what it is right now. Under the committee's recommendations, compensation for council members increases to $60 per meeting, up to 35 meetings, for a maximum of $2,100. The mayor gets $70 per meeting, up to 35 meetings, for a maximum of $2,450. Then all members can get $200 per special work session or long duration meeting. And I'm not sure I'm not sure if those are like, it's a special work session that's also a long duration meeting, or if it's an either or. I do know that when council members meet to go over the budget, they do have at least one, like they meet on a Saturday and they're there like all day long. So I'm assuming that is one of those long duration meetings. I'm not sure what would be considered another one, but everyone can get $200 per meeting like that, up to 2 per year. So that's an extra $400. And then all members are entitled to a $100 stipend if they complete an educational program through the Elected Officials Academy that is offered by the Michigan Municipal League. And the Lowell also mentioned that he hoped that when, that as part of their recommendation, they wanted at a city council meeting those members who had gone through this program to be recognized, in the hopes of encouraging, ongoing education of the elected officials. So they submitted their report. Council will have to approve it, but they need to get a resolution back to approve it, and that will come back to them at a future meeting. Other meeting items: Fire Chief Shannon Witherall was there to provide an update. He mentioned that the department, their ISO fire rating improved, and the ISO fire rating is something that insurance companies might factor into their premiums. So the fact that their ISO rating has improved could, trickle down into lower premiums for area residents. So that's good news. There was a report on the Planning Commission activities for the year. There were 2 public hearings on the city's water and wastewater facilities. And the way these public notices were written, it basically looked like the city was going to be updating or replacing its water and wastewater facility plants, which are huge projects, which they're talking, and these estimates are a couple years old, so they're probably would cost even more now. But to update the city's water would be like $6.6 million. And to update the wastewater facility, or expand it, is what needs to happen. That'd be $26 million. So these notices went out about this expansion, and some people were concerned, understandably, because this is a lot of money. And City Manager Mike Burns, he noted that these notices don't mean that we're doing these projects. Apparently, the city is trying to apply for some grant funds that can be used for these projects if the city pursues them in the future. But in order to apply for the grant funds, I'm assuming they're government grants, the city is required to put out these notices to say that they intend to do this work eventually. But Burns is like, we're not actually doing the work right now because we don't have the money for it right now. So that's what that was all about. So they had the public hearings. They didn't actually vote or make a motion afterwards, so I'm not sure if they needed to or if they just had to hold the public hearing. But they did that, and no one, I think one person stood up and just basically said that they were concerned. Oh, they also mentioned that they hoped that if these projects ever did happen, that township residents would have to help pitch in, because the reason the plants need to be expanded is because of growth in the township, not because of growth in the city. Council members also unanimously adopted a regional 5-year hazard mitigation plan prepared by Kent County. This has nothing to do with the flood maps, which apparently some people now are in the floodplain that weren't in the floodplain before, but Burns said this is not related to that. This is just something that Kent County puts together, and the city and Ottawa County, everyone kind of opts into it, in case there's like a regional disaster, or I guess it's a mitigation plan to avoid getting into a regional disaster. So that was approved unanimously. Councilmember Marty Chambers said that he was going to be hosting a dinner event in recognition of the Department of Public Works employees. And Mayor Mike DeVore said that he and Chambers were organizing a charity softball game for September, and that will have members of the Lowell Police Department playing against members of the Lowell Fire Department. There will be no meeting on July 3rd. Council members canceled that because of the holiday, but there is still another the first June meeting will be on June 5th at 7 p.m. Prior to that, there's going to be a special joint meeting with the Downtown Development Authority at 5:30 p.m. to discuss the purchase of flock safety cameras. I didn't know what those were, so I had to look them up. Apparently, there's a little bit of controversy about them. It sounds like they're cameras that monitor people's driver's license, and it's kind of a screening process, I guess, I'm assuming, to let the police know if someone drives through town who, I guess, has an outstanding warrant, or I'm not sure what exactly, how they use that information, but I know in some communities it looks like it's been a little bit controversial, but Lowell is looking at that. We have a link in this recap as well to the website of flock safety cameras if you want to check that out yourself. For our Wednesday feature of Along Main Street, we're at 106 West Main Street. Again, this is a feature that the Lowell Area Historical Museum puts together. It's just really cool history about the buildings in downtown Lowell. This one, if you look at the feature photo, if you go to lowellsfirstlook.com and check out this, there's actually, you can't see the building in the feature photo, or you can, but it's basically street level because it's a photo from the flood of 1905. There's water rushing past the building. The building had just come down, which is kind of sad because this building was originally built, I think, in 1901. And then it came down in the flood, and then they rebuilt it, and Rookies is there today. On Thursday, we published The Restless Viking, and we did a Throwback Thursday this week for theirs. We went back on their YouTube page and we looked for their very first vlog, their very first video blog post, which was an epic flight to a remote island. And they were going to North Fox Island by plane. Actually, it was Chuck Hayden. Martha was not on this journey, but Chuck was going with a couple different people. And it's interesting to watch this video, which is about, I think it's 20 some minutes long. And if you're not interested, most of it's fly time. If you're not interested in flying, you can skip forward to about the 17-minute mark, and they're at a memorial airfield. And there's kind of a cool building there. But it's interesting to watch this video and then go on their channel to one of their most recent videos to see how they've evolved their channel over time, which, I always like those sort of comparisons. But if you like flying, if you're interested in flying, this is probably a video that is right up your alley. On Thursday, we also published a press release that we got from Virgins Township. So I am recording this early on Saturday morning. So in the off chance that you listen to this right away, you can still make it to this. There's a dedication at 10 a.m. this morning on May 20th. Virgins Township, the staff and the board, they personally raised funds to buy a bench in honor of Betsy Davidson, who was much loved in the community, passed away last year after a long fight with cancer. So they are putting up a memorial bench on the Fred Meyer River Valley Rail Trail system. between Lincoln Lake and 4 Mile Road. So if you go down to the Alton Bible Church on Lincoln Lake, park there. They're going to have a shuttle service starting at 9:30 to take people to this dedication for a bench for Betsy. If you do not make it to the dedication, by all means, please go walk the trail and you can see it. That is, I think, a very cool thing that they are doing in honor of Betsy. She gave so much to the community, and she's really left a hole since she left us last year. On Friday, we did our Furry Friday, and it was Puppy Week because both Mackenzie's Animal Sanctuary and Hearts of Hope Dog Rescue have puppies, which Hearts of Hope Dog Rescue often have puppies, but Mackenzie's, it's pretty rare. And I almost wonder if one of the dogs they rescued was pregnant and had puppies. But so we're featuring Sapphire. These are like tiny baby puppies, and they're beagle mixes. So they have a couple that are up for adoption. And then Luther, I am such a sucker for the photos of the dogs in little coats. So Luther is here in his little sweater. So he was definitely my pick to feature this week. And he is an American Staffordshire Terrier mix. And there's other options at both rescues. So you can look for the Furry Friday post, and they both have links to these rescues, adoptable dogs pages. We are looking for cats to feature as well. I'm also a cat person, but I don't think there's a local cat rescue anymore. If you know of one, let me know, and I will reach out to them so that we can have some felines in our Furry Friday. And then to round out the week, we have the Lowell Township Board recap. And Gerald Browning went and covered this meeting for us, and their main issues of business, they heard a report from the Kent District Library basically talking about how, they have really seen everyone come back now that the pandemic is over. Their new cards are up, checkouts are up. People are really flocking back to the libraries. And Kent District Library, we're very fortunate to live in an area with really one of the world's best, or one of the nation's best library systems. And they offer just so many options beyond books, beyond books and movies and all sorts of digital services and even Wi-Fi hotspots. There's, I think our library system is very cool, and it's a great value. You think about, in the grand scheme of things, our tax dollars pay for it, but really we don't pay a whole lot in taxes that go directly to the library. And if you're maximizing the use of the library, you're saving way more than you're spending in taxes for it. So I encourage everyone to get to the library as often as possible. There was also a fire department report from Fire Chief Shannon Witherall. This was basically the same report. So he went to the city meeting, he left the city meeting, and he went to the township meeting, and then he gave kind of the same report, same coverage, that, with the ISO system, that their rating is better, which benefits all the local homeowners. So we're working on maybe getting an article dedicated just to that, to help you understand a little bit more about how that ISO score works and what it means to you. The Lowell Township Board also, they approved an amendment to their sign ordinance, which was recommended by the Planning Commission. This will allow electronic reader boards in the Ag 1 and Ag 2 districts, and it will prohibit illuminated signs for home occupations and home-based businesses. That was unanimously approved. The board also approved some repairs to the shared entrance to the North Grand River Riverfront Park. That's the entrance off Bowes Road that they share with Walgreens. Walgreens is going to split the cost. It sounds like there's some potholes there that need to be filled and leveled out. Township Board is also going to truck in some sand to the South Grand River Riverfront Park and level out the beach volleyball courts there. And they are going to do that once a month because of the amount of play that is used on those courts. They're getting a lot of use. So that covers the news for this week. Spotlight events of the week coming up. Again, if you are listening to this on Saturday, on Sunday, May 21st from 2 to 4, you can head to the Lowell Arts Gallery at 223 West Main Street and meet the artists who are part of the Connections exhibit that is currently at Lowell Arts. And this is Connections is a group of 4 exhibits with 4 groups of artists. They've got some cool stuff in there. I was there the other day. And so you can go in, it's free. There'll be light refreshments. You can talk to the artists or just mingle, look around, see what they've got. If you miss the reception, you can go in at any time. The Lowell Arts Gallery is free. You can stop by Tuesdays through Fridays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or Saturday from 12 to 5 p.m. and check out the artwork from local and regional artists. The Strides for Life 5K is coming up on June 3rd. That will be at 9 a.m. and that is a fundraiser for the Alpha Care Center in Lowell. And the Rotary Club meets every week and they are always open for guests and new members. So check out the good work that they are doing. And that wraps up our weekly update for May 20th. I also want to wish well to all the girls who are running today and the girls on the run. As soon as I wrap up here, me and my daughter are heading to downtown, and she's going to be part of the Celebration 5K that they're doing in downtown Grand Rapids. She's part of the St. Pat's group, and I believe Murray Lake and Cherry Creek, they also have girls that will be running this morning. Girls on the Run is a great program. My daughter, it's her second year doing it. She loves it. It's just really a fun, empowering way to get active and encourage some healthy habits without, being overbearing. It's just a great program for kids to get them active and moving and thinking about, positive habits. So that's all for me, folks. I hope you have a great weekend and a great week, and we'll chat again next Saturday.